Hey everybody, I'm Bill Inman. I'm excited to be here with you today. I'm here with Chris Wiegman, who is the founder and CEO of GroupOne. They've provided services, managed IT services in California to hundreds of clients, have hundreds of active clients now, and are a very valuable resource for mid-sized businesses, enterprises, and you really help them a ton, Chris. And I'm excited to talk to you today, not just about GroupOne, but also about cybersecurity, which is top of mind for so many business owners today. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bill. Appreciate you having me here.
I appreciate your time. If you don't mind, I think our viewers would love to know more about GroupOne. You know, what's your mission and how are you helping clients today?
Sure. Yeah. So, our approach or vision is really based on having a really good understanding of our partners' businesses' needs. We consider it to be a true business partnership. We don't want to just be a vendor. We really want to understand the technology that our client partners are using, the systems they're using. We also are interested in understanding, how their business operates, their workflows and pain points inside the business. So, unlike many other technology companies, we tend not to lead with the new sexy technology without really deep diving and understanding, whether that technology will suit the business's needs. It's also important to point out that we're not a sales quota-focused organization. So what that allows us to do is to really ensure that we're providing the proper product and solutions for our partners.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with, from what I've known you for almost a year now, and speaking off and on to you over the past year. And of course, the pandemic was probably a really interesting time for you because IT has changed so much. But I'm really been thrilled, I guess, and impressed with your level of organization and detail and the ethics behind what you do. You do have a strong discovery process before you even take on a client, and you're very picky about who you take on as well. So, what kind of companies are these that you work with?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we really we are particular now, I guess I could say, in terms of the businesses we partner with. Thankfully, we're at the size of an organization where we can choose one another. And if it's just not a good fit, we're upfront with them about that. But currently, we support a wide array of business types. Being that we're near the Central Valley in California, we do have a significant amount of partners in the food and agricultural type spaces. But then just, general business types, construction-based businesses, to engineering firms, to insurance, health. So really, it runs the gamut. We do have a focus in supporting food and ag-based businesses that leverage ERP solutions from Microsoft, which is Microsoft Dynamics.
Yeah, that's a popular technology, obviously. And we were talking before the call, and we were talking about how fast 20 years goes by because you got into this business early in your career, and you said one of the benefits of that is now you're at a point with your company where you can pick and choose who you want to work with as opposed to taking everybody on.
Yeah.
You're a pretty good size organization for the MSP world, this managed IT services business side. And a lot of those provide it's such a I guess call it commoditized and competitive market because anybody can really start a business and look like they're professional methodology and they know what they're doing, but I found uncovering the industry a lot of people don't have that. So tell me, so it's been 20 years for you. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey from when you started to where you are today, and maybe how's it grown? What have you seen?
Oh, sure. Okay, sure. Yeah. So I started initially in the late 90s. So I guess as we were just talking about, kind of the dot-com bust boom era, I could say. I worked in worked for an internet provider here locally in town, and in the help desk space, and then, transitioned to, ironically, what we now call 20 years later, managed services. We were calling it back then in the late 90s, early thousands. Did that for a few years, about 4 years actually. And then I branched out from there and had, a small subset of partner clients that I serviced their technology. And that was, help desk and that kind of thing by myself. And really in the late 2000s is when I decided to get a little bit more, more serious and start to button down and try to grow a business. And that's when me and my current business partner, Trino, we founded GroupOne in 2010, and brought along a lot of partner relationships that I had grown through the 2000s, and still have some of those partners today, actually. It's funny, I was just meeting with one last week, and they reminded me that we've been working together for 16 years, which at 41 is starting to make me feel a little old, but I know I'm still young. So, but yeah, so, just exciting journey. We've grown to be one of the top, MSPs in the world. Actually, this most recent, last week, we were announced number 64, I believe, which is quite an accomplishment. So, it's just a testament to our partnership approach and customer-centric approach, and the understanding of their businesses and whatnot that have just helped us grow our business. So
that's amazing validation. I've worked in helping MSPs market. There's 64 companies probably in Sacramento, let alone the world. So to be number 64 in the world, that's a big accomplishment. That's quite a recognition. Was that based upon company size?
Yeah, various degrees. So my partner was the one that handled that, the vetting of that or whatever, filling out the document for that. But it came down to growth over time and specific KPIs like revenue per tech employee and such. There was some change. They changed the way that they performed the grading this year versus last year, which was something new. I'm sure they'll tune it over time. This is specifically the MSP 501 is what it's called. So been around a lot of years. We just started in the last 3 or 4 years, I think, putting our name down on the hat. So we've moved down the chain from the 300 range into the 200 range and 100 range, and now into the sub 100 range, which is pretty.
You're going in the right direction, and now the pressure's on. Get to single digits if we get some. Congratulations! I didn't know that.
So yeah. I know. We try not to pat our backs too much, but thought it was something exciting to share, I guess.
I don't get that you would. I've always thought you're humble for this amount of success you had. So you mentioned Microsoft Dynamics as one technology you help companies with. What else? What else is in the spectrum there that you're helping?
Oh man, it's so vast. So I would say that from a cloud solutions perspective, things like Microsoft Azure 365. Obviously, we have this carved out niche in the Dynamics Navision / Business Central space, primarily in food and ag, as I mentioned. But the solutions like virtualization, like Hyper-V and VMware, backup technologies from Veeam, your traditional desktop and server hardware from Dell, HP, Lenovo, networking technologies, SonicWall, Meraki, Ubiquiti. But then also, the hot topic, which is cybersecurity, and that's really in a layered approach. So we partner with many vendors, including Huntress, SentinelOne, Cisco Duo, and Cisco Umbrella, Avanan, and Proofpoint as an example. So there's a lot more to it, but that's just a few of the companies we partnership with directly.
That's a lot to wrap your brain around, but you have to stay ahead of all that, and you are. So thank you for segueing into cybersecurity, because that was what we wanted to talk to you about. We're seeing in the news all the time, right? Companies are getting, governments are getting hacked, and governments have multi-million, deca-million-dollar infrastructures around businesses and organizations, and small and mid-sized companies sometimes aren't even aware. So what are you seeing out there in cybersecurity from a risk perspective? Before we get to solutions, like what's going on?
Sure. Yeah. So I spend a lot of time, personal time, I should say, outside of business, thinking and sometimes not getting sleep as it relates to, cyber threats that can potentially harm our partner clients. And we are seeing a proliferation of ransomware. Obviously, we're hearing about it in the news. The White House put out their notification, and the DOJ and so on and so forth. The recent hacks that have been online, like the pipeline and whatnot. But there's a tremendous amount of threat out there, and unfortunately, businesses don't always take it seriously. I hear things like, it won't happen to me, or we have backups, so we can rely on backups, which unfortunately is a very bad insurance policy, to be honest with you. So And the reason why is because these ransomwares, if you are, breached, can also compromise your backups. So we are noticing that cyber insurance policies are now requiring certain technologies, which I'll go into a little bit later. But the threat is out there, and it's there's many threat vectors too, and that's the tough part. Educating your employees is super important. But then layering in all these technologies to help prevent and mitigate a breach is something we're doing as an MSP now.
Yeah, I mean, CEOs and founders and owners need to work on their day jobs, sell things, right, make a profit. So it's really hard. This can ruin a business, and we've seen it ruin reputations, or millions of dollars can be stolen. It's really hard for them to keep up with everything that's happening. Because am I correct in saying it changes almost daily now? Something new, right?
Oh, it's something new. Yeah, and it's hard to keep up with. And that's why I spend, at least looking through this every night just to make sure that there's not, something new there that we need to be worried about. But to your point about ruining a business, with the cyber insurance policies requiring certain technologies like multi-factor and security awareness. I mean, if you're signing the dotted line that you have those implemented and you don't, don't be surprised if your insurance carrier won't cover you if you were to get a ransomware breach, as an example, right? So, those ransomwares are becoming to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars based on the business size. So it's super important to take, this stuff seriously, and, to listen to your IT service provider and implement these technologies to help mitigate things. But yeah, it's scary, man. It's scary.
Yeah, maybe you could tell us about some of that. I mean, the thing is, probably some of the customers or prospects that you talk to, they go, oh, I already have somebody in IT. But is that person losing sleep about security? I mean, it's a different thing than just supporting a network and hooking up Ethernet cables than like protecting your business, right?
Yeah.
This expertise does not add a lot of the clients, I would imagine.
Yeah. For the smaller businesses, I would say definitely under 500 employees. If they have, one or two IT people, these people aren't focusing on cybersecurity or security prevention, as an example. They're usually running around like chickens with their heads cut off, for lack of a better way to put it, just fighting fires, right? Fighting, typical help desk type stuff, server up, down, etc. So really having a security focused partner, super imperative nowadays. I was telling my staff or some of my team members that, 5 years ago, I didn't, none of this stuff was really, a little bit on top of mind, but nothing like it is now, right? So it's really important that, while you might have internal IT staff or you might have an existing IT partner, to make sure that they really understand the emerging threat and that they have some focus in it, right, and preventing it, and helping you prevent your business from being compromised.
Yeah. I mean, famous people have bodyguards, people to protect them because there's value there. And I'm sure these business owners, that they realize their business has value, but they're like, I don't need, I'm a famous person. I'm just going to walk around the airport. I'm good. Doesn't work like that, right? I mean, anything can happen at any one time. So real quick on ransomware, can you give us some examples of that? Just some tangible examples, what people are experiencing or seeing? Is that?
Yeah. So thankfully, we've had a pretty good track record in terms of preventing that for our partner base. I was looped in about a year and a half or so ago, I'd say now, with a business locally that we had done some project work for, but they weren't a managed services client of ours, and they had a ransomware breach, and this came in via a hole basically in their firewall. And again, to my point earlier about the IT folks, they're not as focused on ensuring that there's no security gaps in the network. And so this was the case there. And so what that looked like is, they ended up getting ransomware. All of their machines were encrypted. And unfortunately, their backups were also encrypted. So the only potential outcome there is to engage your cybersecurity and your insurance policy. They bring in a cybersecurity expert team, and then deploy a bunch of tools in your network, and they work with a threat actor via the dark web and the Tor dark web to essentially negotiate Bitcoin cost to provide you the decryption keys to the to all the systems they encrypted, and you go through this. It's just a nightmare. It's very expensive. The downtime is no less than at least 3, 4, or 5 days. It's just a total disruption to the business. You have people sitting on their hands while you're trying to remediate this, and so it's just not something anybody wants to deal with. It definitely wasn't something that I was comfortable working in, but wanted to help get this partner back online. So prevention, obviously, and prevention is the best method here to ensure that your business doesn't get compromised.
Yeah, it's one thing to say, I have insurance, I'm good. But their business is shut down for 5 days, and their clients are not going to be happy about that, I wouldn't think. And then at some point, they're like, the clients might lose faith in the business. So
that's right.
Okay, insurance is one thing, and then proving that you have the technology you said you did when signing the policy is one thing. But actually preventing it so it doesn't disrupt business seems to be like the key thing here, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
So what are you recommending now? What do you do when you go into a new client? I'm sure you assess them, and what recommendations are you making that people who are watching this might take to heart?
Yeah. Great. Great question. So, for new partners of ours, we have an extensive onboarding project process where we come in and really identify everything going on in the network, and we build a kind of, in essence, a roadmap of things that need to get addressed. We'll have discussions about cybersecurity and things that they don't have implemented. But, as I mentioned earlier, it's really important that businesses, if they do have a tech partner currently, that they interview them and vet whether they truly understand, the cyber threat landscape. And if they don't, and they're lacking in that area, that they reach out and look for a partner that really understands that space. Managed service providers like ourselves are now, in essence, being tasked to have that skill set in-house. So we do, and we understand the threat landscape and vectors and prevention technologies. And really all of that boils down to, other than the right partner, is they're going to lead with layering many different technologies to prevent and mitigate an attack against your business. So that would look like, multi-factor authentication, like I mentioned earlier, the cyber insurance policies, and security awareness training is huge, right? That's actually, more proactive from a standpoint of teaching your employees or training your employees not to click on things or, type their username and password into websites they shouldn't be, right? From a phishing perspective. But also tools like DNS or web filtration, firewalls, keeping your firewall up to date, keeping an active service contract is really important. And then there's next generation tools that have just come out in the last so many years, called managed detection and response and endpoint detection and response. Endpoint detection and response is essentially can be looked at as a next generation antivirus software. Has the ability to leverage some AI to help identify things that the traditional antivirus solution couldn't. There's SIM tools, which is basically a log collection of everything going on in your firewall and network and correlating those events and looking for, anomalies that your typical antivirus solutions don't look at. And then obviously implementing the traditional solutions, your firewall, your Windows firewall, your patch management, your antivirus solution. So, nowadays we're seeing a stack of about 10 different tool sets to help prevent and mitigate, cyber breach or a threat actor from penetrating the network.
Of those 10 tool sets, I suppose you go in and you customize those based upon the type of technologies and business they are. Is that how that works? Or?
In some cases, a little bit of customization, but for the most part, most of these tools are pretty canned in terms of how they operate and don't require too much customization. I think, where we spend the most time is deploying and maintaining them. Any alerts that come out of them are typically can be noisy. So really understanding, again, earlier talking about, understanding the threat landscape and cybersecurity. Once you have that skill set in-house, you can weed through some of those alerts and simplify those down. But yeah, it's pretty standard for the most part across partner base.
Yeah, it sounds like you do all the complex work, get the systems architecture in place, implement,
Yeah.
and it just distills down to the client for just alerts. And then they can call you if necessary. I've got this alert. What do I do next if they need it?
Yeah, we actually proactively address those alerts so they wouldn't get notified. So our help desk, as an example, would get all those notifications, and then we would reach out to them.
Another thing to make you lose sleep. But you have a qualified staff, obviously.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, that's a lot. And do you train the trainer when you go into a company? Do you train them, or do you constantly show up and talk about, like yesterday, for example? I'm pretty astute with this stuff, phishing and all that. But I got a bank notice on my text. The only thing that stopped me from pressing that was I know that I shouldn't be pressing on. A bank wouldn't send out a bit.ly link.
Sure,
you know what I mean.
You're right.
That's not something this abbreviated link that's a free service. Banks don't use that. So it's really, what do? Do you teach like to that level of awareness, or?
Yeah, yes. So we have, through our security awareness training platform, various training exercises or areas where it does dive deeper into those sorts of things, like on your cell phone. Or social engineering is another really crazy one, where somebody acts as you. I got a crazy example there, actually. We had a client that had an email compromise, and our help desk tool, when they call in, sends an email back to them and let them know that, hey, we're working on it. That threat actor actually acted as us after he or she had seen that email back from us, and was able to extract some personal identifiable information from our partner. So that's the social engineering aspect. I mean, there's various of threats out there. It's hard to stay on top of them all. But yeah, we do have awareness training that dives into each area.
Yeah, the level of sophistication and monitoring that these, I guess criminals, you call them, are doing is crazy now. Yeah. Well, this is fascinating. There's so much to talk about, and I imagine we'll have another follow-up on it. But so I imagine you said earlier, right? Companies need to be aware of the challenges that they have. Can a company that's not your partner or client today contact you and talk to you about this?
Sure. Yeah, certainly. Yep. I'm always reachable over email or phone. We, release articles on LinkedIn once in a while, which is nice, actually pretty frequently. But yeah, definitely reach out to us via our website. Our website's grouponeit.com. It's GROUPONEIT.com. I can also be reached via email at CWIEGMAN@grouponeit.com, or simply info@grouponeit.com. And give me a call. I'm always happy to talk to people about this stuff. It's always interesting to hear their stories, and I provide a lot of pro bono feedback, I guess you could put it. For me, I've been in the space for a while. It's I get pleasure in helping people however we can. So feel free to give me a buzz or reach out to me on LinkedIn as an example, and I'm happy to talk.
That's a great offer, and I mean, you're passionate about these things. I'm sure that you're staying up late and digging into family time sometimes. Somebody's got to be doing this, because it's a real-time job. So it's a nice offer for you to reach out. And I definitely recommend, for those of you that are watching this, if you have any question at all about cybersecurity, handle it before there's an issue. Even if you have insurance, make sure that you're airtight. So Chris, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. I'm sure we'll talk to you again. Look forward to keeping in touch, hearing the stories of what's happening out there. And thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Bill. It's great to talk to you again.
You as well.
All right. Bye-bye now.